independent company, it would be a Fortune 150 company. So you have a very significant leadership role. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the choices that you made leading up to that position. And one of the things I find most interesting is that coming out of an engineering program, you then went into plant management. And within about 10 years, I think you actually became a plant manager. And then you went from that to becoming an assistant brand manager. After having been a very senior person, you made that switch. So my question is, how is it that you came to make such a bold decision at that point in your career?
Well, I had spent the first 11 years of my career in product supply in 4 different plants within P&G. And what became clear the longer I was in product supply was I was very interested in the total business at P&G. And in our company, if you aspire to senior management, you really need to understand brand building. We are a company focused on serving consumers. We work with customers to ultimately get to the consumers, and you've got to understand that part of the business. And so when I was the plant manager, I remember talking with some of our senior managers about, long-term what I was interested in. And it became clear if I really aspired to go beyond the functional leadership roles, which I was very much enjoying, that I needed to move to brand building. And the company's view at that time, which I think was brilliant, was if you really want to learn about brand building, you ought to start over and learn from the ground up, because the opportunity to learn and truly be a student is much higher as an assistant brand manager than laterally coming in and trying to run a large organization with little understanding.
Did you have a mentor who helped you? Because it seems like such a tough choice to make.
Yes, and certainly I recommend no matter what company people go to have somebody that you trust, that you can talk to. Because at that time, you can think about it, I was running a plant of 1,280 people, big facility, and the next thing up was a director of many plants, and it wasn't far off in the future to see an opportunity to be a vice president or above within the function. And the chance to go back and start over meant starting over literally. The cube that I had a new hire from Wharton and a new hire from Harvard, and there probably was a new hire from Fuqua as well, within the cube that we were in. And it was literally starting over with other people, much like yourselves when you start with P&G, but it was exactly the right thing to do. In addition to being a great way to learn the business, it was a fabulous lesson in humility and how to come back and really listen and learn, and it provided to me the foundation later to understand brand building at a very different level I ever would have understood it. And the mentor that I talked to said, I believe the skills that you've learned in product supply or manufacturing will serve the company well if you have the ability and interest to do this work. And the only way to find out is jump in. Don't audit the course, take the course.
So how do people make themselves known? You're now very, very senior, and everyone wants to succeed in their companies.
Sure.
How is it that you make yourself look like someone who is on the right path from your point of view?
Now, I think there's many ways people can set themselves apart in a positive way. And one of the reasons, frankly, I come here so much and our company chooses to come here is the environment that is created at Fuqua is very much the environment we're trying to create and I think do have within Procter & Gamble. And that is, we want people that are distinguished in their capabilities, people that have a record of achievement, but people that truly believe that no one is smarter than everyone, or that no one is smarter than a total group. And what I look for is people that emerge as leaders out of a team and do so in a way where they help the team to outperform. And there are several things that we can observe that distinguish people in areas like intellectual agility or emotional intelligence or drive. And in those 3 areas, you can start to get evidence that people have capabilities well beyond the level that they're currently in. And we look for then opportunities or experiences to really let them excel in any one of those areas, intellectual agility, emotional intelligence, or so they have the capacity to handle much more.
Mm-hmm. I know you firmly believe in continuous learning. What about leadership has been most challenging for you? Where do you feel like these are the hardest things that you've had to try to learn?
Generally, things in evaluating and helping people, because especially in a company that's to promote from within, you get to know people very, very well. And I've learned over time that you have to decide what's right for the company, then do it the right way, consistent with your principles and values. If you mix those two up, you can paralyze yourself and not make difficult decisions that are good for the enterprise, but maybe difficult for an individual that you truly care about. And the way I at least have dealt with it over time is work very hard if someone, for instance, isn't a good match, to help them come to the same conclusion and to help them with whatever's next. But it's very difficult because when you believe and build strong relationships with people, there's a tendency to not want to make the decision that's probably right for them as well as right for the organization. So generally, personnel or management evaluation of talent.
The example you gave, it brings to the forefront the idea of integrity. And one of our core values is uncompromising integrity, and I know that you firmly believe in that, the importance of integrity. Was there a defining moment for you where you realized that you can't trade off these things, that integrity can't be mixed with being nice or something like that?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a defining moment. There's many times in my career, often in high stress points, where I think you're faced with deciding what's really important to you personally. An example would be on an assignment. Many of us, probably most in this room, are very career-minded. You really want to get ahead. At different times of your life, I've given the company different degrees of flexibility. But I think one of the most difficult ones that occurred many years ago was when there was a tremendous opportunity from a career standpoint that the company gave and said, we'd really like you to do this. And a senior manager talked to me and said, we'd really like you to do this. And it was a time when I had children that were in high school. And we talked with my wife, and we really decided this would be a challenging time to move the family. And I decided I did not want to do it. And then the company said, we'd like you to talk to somebody else that was a little higher in case I didn't fully get the idea. And that was, this is a really good opportunity. And we had a couple rounds of that. And at the end, it really was a choice about, at that point in time in my life, what was most important. And what was most important was we needed stability. I'd moved many times, so I'd been very flexible. And I think flexibility is important if you have aspirations to grow and get the opportunity for different experiences. But it's also critical that each of us know where our boundaries are. And everybody gets to define those. I honestly believe for the people I lead, part of my role is to help them articulate on their terms what does success look like, and then to help them make it happen in a way that's consistent with what the company's needs are and theirs, but not to impose my view. Now, what was wonderful about this experience is when I finally came clearly to the point where the company understood this wasn't right. The company said, good, we just wanted to make sure because we really think this would have been good for you and the company, but we also respect the choice. And obviously it hasn't gotten in the way of future development. But it reinforced to me that you need to know where your boundaries are. And the thing is, people often say, you know, I'm not flexible. Is that going to stop my career? At some point in time, there's probably a degree of flexibility that's needed. But it can occur at different points of time. What needs to happen all the time is that you have a meaningful impact on the organization and whatever you're being asked to do. If you leave a track record of achievement in a way that builds the group of people you're working with and delivers results, I think any reasonable company will work with you on when and how much flexibility you demonstrate.
So a lot of people have talked about one of the big issues that you face in the corporate world is driving a spirit of innovation and a reasonable level of risk-taking, not stupid risk-taking, but you want people who will take risks. Did that example help you kind of internalize and think through how do we encourage a culture of appropriate risk-taking?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's one we constantly have to learn because it is difficult to accept that many of the things you're going to do aren't going to work. And no one wants to, quote-unquote, sign up to work on something they don't think is going to be successful. But if we're not careful, we will not take many shots, and we won't find the new big idea. Often the best ideas do come from the fringes, and it's not obvious they're going to work. You know, we had a conversation about great innovators, and there is a view of this brilliant person that has this amazing insight, and sometimes there are some people that are just remarkably gifted. But often it comes from learning from others and a lot of things that failed first. And from that, we got insight that led to something that was a bigger breakthrough going forward. And I've got high respect for those that have the confidence in themselves, the self-confidence to articulate, I really want to go for this, and take personal risk and career risk to go for things. And frankly, I would rather protect them if it doesn't work, because we need more of those, to me, in corporate America, or really in corporate anything, but certainly in Procter & Gamble. We need more of those folks. We need bright people that have the strength of conviction to go after ideas they really believe are well-founded in real consumer insight, with the technology that can be married with that to create something of real value. And we won't always be right, or a big brand may take the idea.
So P&G went through a period of great global expansion.
Yes, we did.
And in some sense, you could argue they've been going through global expansion for many, many years.
Decades.
But you've been in the press quite a bit lately in terms of this idea of you need to shrink to grow. And my question for you is, how does that change your leadership in terms of motivating and inspiring people when you're saying we're going to shrink back, but we're going to get that back and even more? How do you make that happen, as opposed to people feeling like, oh, we're not moving in the right direction here?
Sure. One, the choices the company will make on portfolio will be made, and they'll be announced one day when we do make a choice. The vast majority of our businesses we plan to build and have in our portfolio for the future. And what I often tell folks in the way I deal with things that I don't fully know all the data is there is a circle of control and a circle of influence and a circle of concern. And I try to personally and with my team stay very focused at those things we can do something about. And the better job we do in the brands that we have and the regions that we do business, the better we're going to be in almost every circumstance, whether the business ultimately is one that we stay and grow, or whether the business we choose to do something different. And most people want to make a difference and say, we can speculate if something may, a business may not be part of the portfolio in the future. But there's really not a real constructive outcome from doing that. And so we focus on what we control, and we do the best job we can to understand the environment in which we're making decisions and involve others that need to be involved. Most people want badly to be part of a winner, and so we focus on achievement and growth. And achievement and growth, I think folks can get behind. And the better we do, and the faster we do that, the more we're putting ourselves in a good position under almost any eventuality. And again, the other thing to keep it in perspective, the vast majority of the business is going to be with us. I think what the company has publicly said is, over 90% of our sales and 95% of our profits, we fully expect to be part of the future of Procter & Gamble. So it is a relatively small part. But you're right, it can cause a lot of folks to wonder. And the best way to deal with that is to stay focused on those things you can impact, which is doing my job, my organization's job, in an outstanding way, and creating the environment where people can learn and grow.
I had a question. I wanted to ask a little question regarding the 100 brands that might be divested. I want to explore a little bit more on the customer side. So any customers that might be using these brands for several years, what would you tell these customers now? If they see this brand as P&G no longer being associated with these brands, would you tell them, hey, you should still keep using them? Or I just wanted to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, it varies widely by specific situation. Generally, the reaction from our customers, I think, has been positive, because if we can get more focused at driving growth in the brands that fit in the 4 industry-based sectors that we're choosing to compete in, that's a good thing. And again, the calculus is much about, can we be the best stewards of that brand and grow it, or could someone else do a better job? And if someone else could do a better job, then it's probably best in the hands of somebody different from us, and then we'll focus on those things we can grow. And I believe the customers understand and support that. And at the end of the day, it's certainly a choice, a strategy choice we have to make, but I don't believe I haven't had, and I'm not aware of any issue we've had with customers that don't see the merit in that choice. And it's a very thoughtful choice on when we do make a choice to have something leave our portfolio. Very hard choice, because all of these brands we believe deeply in. But again, it's back to figuring out you got to choose what's right for the long-term health of the organization and the health of the institution. And then once you figure out what's the right strategy choice, then do it in the right way, consistent with your principles and values. And to me, when you do it that way, generally the employees that are impacted, as well as customers and other stakeholders that are impacted, at least understand. It's still difficult. Other questions?
I have a question. I wondered, compare with other customer product companies such as Mars and Unilever, what do you think is the core competence of P&G's marketing team?
The core competence of P&G versus a Mars or Unilever?
Yeah, compare with
Yeah,
Unilever.
I won't comment too much on Mars or Unilever because I can't say I have a greatly informed view other than I respect they're both competitors. Mars I know a little more about because we just sold our America's pet care business to Mars, so I've gotten to meet many of their people, and I think they're a fine company with fine principal leaders. And I'm sure the same thing is true for Unilever as well, but I have never worked with them closely. I can speak to what Procter & Gamble is about, and Procter & Gamble is about building brands, and building brands that start with serving consumers that make a meaningful difference in the lives of consumers every day. And to me, while that sounds, you know, a little bit maybe just kitchen soup kind of thing, it is very much the core of who we are as a company. And the company's been around 177 plus years. By understanding consumer needs and better serving those needs in each category we compete, we've been able to build, you know, a stable of $23, $25 billion brands. But it starts with consumer insights, better meeting the needs of consumers than we think other brands, and then building the brand over time. Brands stand for meaningful benefits, and we try to convey that benefit at the zero moment of truth, which is when people first go out and try to learn about the brand, at the first moment of truth when they go in a store and get to see us in a competitive set, in the second moment of truth when they actually use our brand in the privacy of their home. And we have to, in our brand building approach, be outstanding at the zero, first, and second moment of truth. And that broadened view, to me, very much informs what we do and what our brand organization spends a lot of their time understanding. When consumers first have either awareness or an interest in, are we there with the information they need? And are we present when and where they're most receptive to the messages that would give them the information to make an informed choice? Because P&G is not about trying to have a deal that gets somebody to try a brand that doesn't meet their need. Our business model is based on brands that grow over time. And many of our brands have been around for a long, long time. So we want to delight the consumer by meeting their needs from an information standpoint at the store in use.